Hello everyone, welcome to one more session of this interview series that is from Vivian Callegaro Yoga Academy, but I have my lovely colleague today helping, Waheeda Akbarzai. She was my colleague in Positive Psychology Masters, applied Positive Psychology and Coaching Psychology at the University of East London. And she did her thesis in resilience. Very interesting topic, the one that we need so much nowadays. So we're going to be listening to her. Waheeda, she's also a psychologist. She graduated in psychology and has coaching skills. She has helping students in the well-being project at the university while she was studying during 4 years, students of the Middlesex University. She also was my best friend at the university during the course that we're doing. And what I admire her most is her sense of justice. She has a huge sense of justice. And I remember every time there was something that she thinks was unfair, she was the first to raise the hand and say, make her point there. Nobody could beat her. So yeah, I love her deep from my heart, and I'm so happy that she's here today. She's going to talk about resilience. So, shall we start? Waheeda,
yes.
Tell us a bit about resilience. My first
Hi.
question, haven't finished? My first question. Please tell us a bit about the academic definition of resilience, and then a bit of your definition of resilience, and you tell whatever you want as well. Welcome.
All right, thank you so much, Vivian. The only correction I would like to make that I won't call myself psychologist, but yeah, I do have my undergraduate degree in psychology and master's in positive psychology. Thank you so much. Yeah. I enjoyed applied positive psychology and coaching psychology as much as you did. We both did. All topics were so interesting that we couldn't get enough of them. But resilience, I chose my thesis to do resilience, to do a research on resilience, because I think, first of all, as a human, we all have this desire to be strong, isn't it? Like we all want to not to get any mental illness to start with. We don't want to get depression. We don't want to be sad. We don't want to have anxiety. And resilience is something that it's so appealing. So I couldn't resist it. Although I loved hope and optimism as well, which I did in other modules, I did a little bit work on optimism, but resilience, I left it for my thesis because one thing that, draw me towards resilience was my own experience. And my thesis was actually about resilience enhancing factors in refugees, because I am a refugee. I come from Afghanistan. So and Afghanistan, if you have heard of it, it's a war-torn country. It's been 40 years that it was a war that some countries were involved, but recently it's more of a so-called civil war going on there. And I grew up, as far as I remember, there was war. And then in my early 20s, we had to leave the country. And because of that, I have suffered quite a lot. Before I say that, please, today, resilience is a topic that it does involve a lot of difficult emotions. So please, if somebody feels like they want to go and don't want to carry on it, if it triggers anything that discomforting, you are welcome to leave. So yes, people, people who suffer from war, they do ultimately experience some adverse events, and obviously I did as well. And apart from that, apart from war, just in natural life and people who have a totally normal life, they have to, at the end of the day, suffer loss or illness or something difficult, challenging. And there they need something that's called resilience. That will come very handy if people have it. So, and to answer your question, because I'm very talkative person, sometimes I can go on forever, so please do stop me whenever you want to.
I
So,
love it. You want me to go to the second question?
No, your first question. What is
my first question, your definition of resilience, academic, and then
yes.
your definition. So you kind of explain your definition, I don't know, or up to you.
Yeah. Academically, surprisingly, you know, you will be surprised to know that there is 122 different definitions for resilience. Why? Because if I ask you, all of you, people who are listening, what do you think resilience is? You might be thinking about quite a few things, you know. Resilience is people who don't fall ill, don't get depression. They're resilient people, and people who suffer something and they come out of it fine. They're resilient, or different things. So that's because resilience is such a dynamic and a multifaceted concept in psychology. And that's why there are so many definitions, because it's got so many components. But anyway, so the simple definition of a resilience that some experts define it as the absence of a depression and presence of optimism. That's very, very simple. And I think people, I don't think that's enough, you know. But then, because of the reason that I just said, that because it's so dynamic and so multifaceted, so they try to define it a little bit broader. Then this concept of 3 R's comes in, and those 3 R's are recovery, resistance, and reconfiguration. Recovery, what's recovery? If you imagine a tree standing, but then a storm comes and the tree bends. But as the storm goes, some trees can bend, but they come back. So that's what recovery is. Something happens, we go through something, we get hurt, we you know, we get a little bit sad, or in some events we are getting mild depression, but we come out of it. That's called recovery. Resistance, imagine a tree that has got a very big trunk and a quite big root, and it's very strongly grounded. That's that kind of resilience is that the adverse events and those experiences, that unpleasant experiences, difficult times, doesn't affect those people so much. So they are standing strong. And another, the last R is about reconfiguration. What is this reconfiguration about? That something happens to this tree. The tree breaks, but something changes about it. You might have seen some trees that a branch is broken, a big part of the tree is broken, but there is a little leaf or bud coming out of it. So something changes, and people come out of it even stronger. They grow out of that experience that they have. So that's called reconfiguration, and or bouncing back. So yeah, so it's all about going through different experiences, and that's how some people are experiencing it, as they can bounce back fine, and some people you know, change out of it. And that's how I think a lot of people, when they go through some negative experience in life, and they then find a bigger meaning in their life. And I think I don't want to say that's a very beautiful thing, because nobody wants to go through a negative experience. But at the end of the day, we cannot escape losing people in our life. We are human, and we have just to leave this world one day. So we lose our parents, we lose our loved ones, and things happen to us. So that is the kind of definition that as much as I have researched in my thesis, those were my two favorite definitions. First one, very simple: absence of depression and presence of optimism. And the next one, the 3R, which is recovery and resistance and reconfiguration.
Beautiful.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, indeed, a lot. Thank you very much. So absence of depression and presence of optimism.
Optimism, yes.
The most wide, the one that you chose from all the 120 to tell. And then you said a bit about your perception onto that, isn't it? Your personal perception to that.
Yeah, I will. If I want to talk about, you know what, when I did my thesis, I chose to do it a qualitative research, because in qualitative research, for those who are not involved in academic research, there are generally two kinds of research, two big areas of research, qualitative and quantitative. Quantitative to do more with numbers and stats, but qualitative is more about talking with people and looking in depth experience of the participants. And that's what I did. And what I came up as a components of resilience were really similar to those that already exist in literature. And if I can remember, there were 5 super themes that I came up with. And that the first one was education. And then it was personality characteristics. And then it was social support, meaning in life, and the participants' background. So I can go through all of them one by one, but I don't know if everybody wants to hear all these things in details. But you might have got the rough idea what are the components that I came up, which is similar to the components that is out there in literature. My research showed, but remember that my research was about enhancing factors in refugees. So those people that I interviewed and the themes that I came up from the research, they were the experience of people who have left their countries and went through some traumas and or some negative or some adverse events due to the war. And they came to another country, settled there. So my question was why, as a refugee, it was a question for me as well, that why some refugees that they come from the war-torn countries, they go on and, live a normal life. Sometimes, they are not only surviving, but most of the time they are thriving, while others don't. Some people just find it really difficult to move on, and they find themselves stuck. And they, unfortunately, most of them, or let's say some of them, experience mental health challenges. So that was what I wanted to find out, that why. And those 5 factors that I found, super themes that the research showed, that those were the factors, according to the participants' experience, that that helped them to not only survive but thrive. But all of them were the people I have interviewed were females over 25, and they were all fluent in English. Yeah, so they were fluent in English, which showed that they were educated already. So education was one factor.
So okay, let me. So your
research.
Yeah, I'm not research. You were focus area was the people who came from the countries who were refugees. And
Yes.
within the refugees, you had these 5 elements that you focused on, and then you kind of identified within only those refugees, based on these 5 elements, how uh, their resilience varied, right?
Yes, exactly. And how they experienced resilience and how they built resilience. And one more thing, that resilience is not something that people have it or don't have it. Resilience is a process. It's not like today I decide to have resilience, so I go and join some workshops or seminars and I know about it, then tomorrow I'm quite a resilient person. No, resilience is a process. You become resilient over a period of time, and your experiences play a big role in building resilience.
Yeah, very nice, Waheeda.
Fantastic. And Waheeda, what's the advantage of being resilient?
The benefit of resilience will be that in the future, you will be less likely to suffer from mental illness. You will have a successful or satisfied life. You know, success is a term that it's very, very different from person to person. So
I like that.
yes, so it's something, a satisfied life, a stable career, stable family, good relationship. You will have that in future if you have those early learning about resilience. There is a very big and very good study has been done on resilience that I would like to mention here. Why? Because this kind of studies doesn't come all the time. This study was done over 40 years of time. It's called longitudinal study in psychology or research or any research. That because it's been tested on different periods of time, but for a long time. So this study is called Cowie cohort study, and it was done in 1995. The number of participants were around 700, or exactly, if I say it exactly, it was 698 people. And it was started from the birth. Can you imagine? Some people have studied this many people, 698 people, right from birth up to their 40s. And they studied them at birth, and then at 2 years, and then at 8 years, then 10 years, then 30 years, and then 14 years. And in this, let me think that 30% of those people, which is 201 people, were high risk individuals. What does it mean, high risk? So in research, you have to define and specify your groups so that you come up with this outcome that you are looking at specific to that population, and you have to define things. So high risk for that population that the research was done on them, high risk was defined people who had uneducated parents, alcoholic parents, unstable families, the presence of mental illness. So that kind of children were at high risk. And 50% of them was healthy or normal family. So again, a normal family environment. That normal, when it comes to psychology, can be very, very difficult to say what is normal and what is not normal, because culture plays a big role in here. In some cultures, one thing can be considered very normal, while in another culture, it's a problem. For example, in Asian countries, we can find people, mothers that 15 or 14 years old son still sleeping with the mother at the same bed. But if you have that kind of thing here, then it would, appear a little bit out of this normal circle. Similarly, in a lot of things, so it depends what is normal in a culture and what is not. So for that specific population that the research was done on it, healthy was described as children who there was a presence of the capacity for intimacy, love and care, educated family. There wasn't any conflict in those families. So what the study found when they looked at the result and at 40 years, at the last point of the research, so about 70% of those people who first committed were still there and still had still they went through the research process. So 30 people, sometimes, in research, people drop out and they don't want to carry on with the research. So from 70%, 50% were totally healthy. 2/3, they developed some kind of, 1/3 developed some kind of emotional distress and mental illness and social difficulty, but 2/3 they were fine and healthy as well. So a little bit different from the healthy 50%, but still in a better position in life than 1/3. So 1/3 were in high risk, and that were like 72 people. And those 72 people, they were in high risk group, all those. So that means, now look, your question was, what is the benefit of it, right? So the benefit is, if you provide that kind of environment for your children, when your children grow up, they will have a healthy life, stable careers, good relationship, good social life. They will be enjoying, there will be some meaning in life. There will be goals that they want to achieve. So that is the benefit of building resilience in the childhood and having resilience as an adult.
Mm-hmm. Good. Fantastic. Thank you very much. My last question that I prepared here, is resilience the same for everyone, or is it different?
Very good question. Well, what literature shows is resilience is not only different from person to person, not only different from culture to culture, but different from the events as well. So resilience of a person who has experienced war is totally different from a resilience of a person who is living in a country where it's lots of floods, for example, or earthquake. And similarly, there are other things that are happening in our life. Or, for example, people who suffer, in adolescence, people who suffer heartbreak or bullying, their resilience might look different from people who are witnessing or experiencing and more severe, or again, this severe, again, it will be really individual and how people experience things. We, despite the fact that people can, in same family environment, sometimes we have different people. One person is quite resilient and other is not. Mentioning on resilience, a resilient person, I would like to mention one thing that I remember, that there some research shows that there isn't anybody called resilient. So there isn't resilient personality, but there are some personality traits that shows in resilient people, or the people who are calling themselves or come out in some research as a resilient personalities. They have this three personality types, which are extroverts and conscientious and hardiness. But this doesn't mean that people who have that type of personality will definitely be resilient. It's not cause and effect. It might be, one underlying component of resilience, but they are not direct. There's no evidence that they are directly connected.
How mental toughness is related to resilience? A type of resilience, maybe, or do you remember? Can you connect mental toughness in your picture of resilience?
Well, I would want to say yes, but if you remember, mental toughness was a very controversial kind of topic. It's although it's a good thing to have mental toughness, but at the same time, if you're too strong, there might be a lack of empathy coming through. But no, mental toughness, obviously, to look at it from its relation with the resilience and to use it to defeat mental illness, I think there is definitely a connection between these two. And you have to prepare yourself. Nobody is born to be mentally tough, This is also, I really believe that resilience is a process, because you go through things and you learn, you build resilience, and then you use it in your life. So there is one a really famous or a well-known resilience program that you might have heard of it. It's called PRP, PINI program. Yeah, PINI Resilience Program, PRP. Have you heard of it?
Not me, but I want to.
PINI Resilience Program is a very, very used. It's been used quite a lot in schools in different countries. They are using it to teach in schools how to be resilient. And the component, as I said, whatever I came up in my research, the themes were really similar. So one of these programs was, they had 5 components, and I think it is in the context of positive psychology. They were 5, and it is positive affect. Yes. Positive affects, positive emotions.
Yeah, emotions, yes.
Like optimism.
Terms for us that's familiar.
Yeah, all those topics that we were doing in positive psychology, including optimism, hope, gratitude, and all those things that meaning in life, spirituality that we were talking the other day about, and there were 3 positives. So positive affects, positive thinking. In positive thinking, cognitive behavior coaching comes. Or if you look at it more medical way, it's positive cognitive behavior therapy or cognitive behavior coaching. So in realism, that the 4th one was realism, and then it was behavior control, which is self-regulation, self-discipline, and positive affect, as I said, it's more to do with understanding how our thoughts affect our emotions. So if you learn more positive emotions, if you teach positive emotion to our children, to our kids, then they will learn how to be hopeful, how to be optimistic in the future, and that's how they will come back.
Can you give an example? Can you give an example of teaching a kid positive emotion? How do you teach?
Actually, there is a school in Australia that is based on positive psychology theories. It's quite expensive, I think, because overall it will be very expensive for school to apply all these things at school, because it will be some extra expenses for the schools. But it is doable, and it is affecting children's life in future. positively. Once they learn to be hopeful, to be optimistic, and to be grateful for things that they have in life, for all these positive emotions, then they will have this bank of tools and strategies and these positive instruments that comes from psychology, mainstream, and especially positive psychology. And when something happens, they can, a negative experience in life happens, they will have this bank and they can use it and draw on it.
Interesting. So they practice situations where they can apply certain tools based on that they train at school.
You know, remember the other day when you said when you were a kid or a child, you played a glad game.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That made
glad,
you.
I keep saying the glam, and it's the glad game. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you said you think that's where this is one thing that you got your resilience from, and that's how your parents were teaching you to be positive.
Okay, that's a good example.
So that's exactly what I'm talking about, that there are different things, those 5 things that includes the positive thinking, a positive affect, and realism and behavior control, all those things that then each one of them contains other things like self-regulation, emotion regulation, having discipline, exercises, and hope and optimism and all that. Once they have learned it in childhood, then they have this capacity within them. And when children then face something in life, then they will have this tool. Now you have this tool already within you, and you are using it when something a challenging or a difficult times comes in life.
So it can come from definitely from the environment, right?
Exactly. How
so resilience is epigenetic. This comes from the environment.
I'm not
interesting question. How much resilience is genetic? How much is epigenetic? Is environmental? Have you any research on that?
I cannot say.
Sorry.
Yes, I cannot say exactly how much, but this personality traits, even in psychology, they have, they are reluctant to accept that there is a trait, a personality called a resilient personality. So if the traits is questionable, genetic, I think, is a bigger claim to make, that people genetically are resilient. I don't think so, because at least I don't think so. I don't know if there is something out there to show that there is some genes that help us to be resilient. Of course, there are our genetic affect other things, how other things then related to us, how the anatomy of our anatomy, or our the way we look like our father, our characteristics that we are getting from our parents, that may be connected to how resilient we are. But I don't think that there is a gene called resilience, and that will that is something that we can have it already. But this is something that we can develop and we can build on, and from childhood or in any stage. I think as much as I can remember, we were very big family. So obviously in a big family, I think from childhood you learn to be resilient, so that you can fight with your siblings, and you can defend yourself, and you have your own things. So you do kind of learn resilience from childhood, depending on, as you said, environment. But if it is formally taught in schools, or if parents are keen on psychology or how to teach their children, nowadays, one of the things that positive psychology offers to build resilience in children is optimism explanatory style. which Martin Seligman book, The Optimistic Child, if you have remembered. This Optimistic Child is a book that he wrote, and it's he says in that book the way we speak with our children, you know, just the normal day-to-day language. For example, if your child is behaving badly one day, you are not. It's not a good idea to tell them that. You are such a bad boy, you are such a bad girl. But instead, you can tell them, today you are not behaving well. So that you are making that event specific to that moment. You don't label a child. You know, with that kind of change in our day-to-day life, in our day-to-day language, we can build a lot of resilience in our children. So the question is, as much as I know, no, there isn't any thing that any gene that I haven't come across in my research, at least, that we have something in our genes and that makes us resilient. But yes, there may be other factors genetically that help us to become more resilient, more easily, or more stronger than other individuals.
Can I just add an input about what I know a little bit about resilience? My father's a psychiatrist, as I said, and he measures resilience in the saliva. So there's something in the saliva that's related to digestive. So when we salivate this thing, and they can measure, and they know they're more resilient according to this thing that they can identify in the saliva. Something he does in his lab, in his office, is very simple, and he can measure how resilient people are. And he also, my yoga increase resilience. All these contractions,
exactly,
the relaxation, it increases resilience. So this is something that I put actually in my course, and I talk about it.
Exactly. Physical exercise is a big part of building resilience, and yoga is good for you all in mental level and physical level, and so many levels. Yoga is good for you.
And also there's this thing, a neural growth factor is related to neuroplasticity. So we can build new neurons and refresh ourselves. So this is very related to resilience as well. I'm just adding this bit because I'm fascinated about that. Right. I talk about this in my course, and I'm just combining what you've been telling us here.
Great. I love it, especially that saliva test. I want to know more about it. It's quite interesting.
Actually, I suggested one of the research we were going to do about my yoga at university. I had this project that we started. Unfortunately, the coronavirus stopped it, but we had the project there. And one of the physiologist teacher, he was going to measure the resilience. And I suggested, can you measure the saliva? And it's just that because they're not very used to this thing here. But there was these suggestions of doing the research with the yoga and measure the resilience.
Yeah, interesting. But during I haven't come across something like that. But it will be great to know about it.
Something to research a bit more.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys, any question? Me and Waheeda, we're talking a lot. Sarinha.
Question. I have a question.
Go on.
Please.
Sorry. So, Waheeda, you told before that resilience is a process in life.
Yeah.
And depends from many things, so the country, our family, our surroundings, so many things around us.
Yes.
But my question is, this process is always a positive process?
Cognitive.
So, I don't know if it's clear, the question. So if you're born and you are not resilient at all, can you become slowly, like with experience, with the yoga, with the people you surrounded? Or it's the opposite way. So you can born that you are pretty resilient person and you become always more introvert and more strict, that because you live so many bad experience or many things in your life that you just say, it's enough, I'm done, I don't want to be resilient anymore.
Yeah, thank you for your questions. But as I said, there isn't any, in psychology research, they are very reluctant to say that there is such thing as a resilient personality, which means resilience can be built. It doesn't matter if somebody hasn't got any resilience in life, as you said. They will definitely, yes, I'm sure, with the right people, with the right support, with the right environment, people can build resilience. It doesn't, as far as I'm concerned, I believe that it doesn't matter what kind of thing, what kind of trauma you went in life, you went through in life. Like if you have lost your loved ones, your family members, your parents, God forbid, your children, or if you have had this very difficult heartbreak, or if you have suffered bullying, if you have suffered sexual abuse when you were a child or when you were adolescent, or if you have suffered, what else you can suffer, verbal abuse, physical abuse, different things, a loss of your house, for example, financial problems. Despite all of this, I believe that people can come out really strong, start again. And one good example of all this is Oprah Winfrey. All of you, I know her. Oprah Winfrey. She has had a very, very difficult childhood. It wasn't easy, but look at her now. She has
the most successful woman in the world.
She has not only achieved so much financially, she's such a beautiful soul. She's so strong. She's so positive, and she got raped. She got pregnant when she was only a child, and she went through so many things that, for me, it's unimaginable how a human can have that much capacity to come out. But that shows us very clearly that yes, we do have capacity as human. We can, and people, they say that they are more resilient than they think they are. When something happens, we are designed to be resilient. But for some people, if they are very, very unfortunate and unlucky, if they are surrounded with the wrong people, I think that is the time that they might find it a little bit hard to come back on track. But otherwise, with a little bit support, we do get through things, and we do come out of events sometimes even stronger. I personally have suffered a lot in life. I have lost my both parents. I have lost very close family in war. I have lost my house. I went through divorce. I had a heartbreak. You name it. I had lost my house twice. I wanted to be there for my parents, at least on their funeral. I couldn't. I lost my sibling, a very difficult time. I've been through a very, very difficult time, and I might have suffered mild depression. I'm not denying it, but I have come out of it stronger, I believe.
No,
I've learned a lot from it, and I maybe found a meaning out of it in my life. I'm setting goals, I'm achieving my goals, and I'm not going to give up. So the more you suffer, I think, the more, if you are determined and you believe that in this world things are not happening because of me, because it's happening to me. The God is cruel to me. The world is cruel to me. The nature is cruel to me. No, it's not like that. It can happen to anyone, anytime. It depends where are you at that specific time or year or month or day. But you will come out of it. You will come out of everything and live a very happy, satisfied, and meaningful life.
Yes, this is, so resilience, I always call resilience for me like a human survival skill, because I always thought in my life that every human in every situation is able to, to become stronger, do things that he didn't think was able to do, so, and survive. So this is what I call by myself survival skill. But in many cases, I saw people, it's like a big people that, they went through some things and they become depressed. So when people are depressed, they close in themselves. So if they don't accept to be helped by someone, they don't have, that switch on to react and to move on in life. So my question was this one: can someone that's really close in himself become depressed? How we can switch on to build resilience again?
Okay, all right.
So it's like my negative attitude, it's mean this one. So someone has been always strong and suddenly fall down at one point, that there is no resilience anymore.
Yeah. So when someone, when someone is depressed, yes, or let's say someone is going through depression, that's a very, very different thing, and different and difficult time. At that time, to tell somebody to be resilient, I think for that person who's going through depression, it sounds impossible, because depression happens when you lose all hope inside. There is nothing, and you think, because I might have been there, I have touched that area a little bit, you think that there is nothing in this world anymore that I can live for. So at that moment, if you tell somebody, be resilient, come on, let's go out, let's do exercise, it's not gonna work. So people who are going to depression, they need, and it depends what kind of depression. Is it clinically clinical depression, or is it just mild depression that people can come back to themselves with the support, with the time heals things, isn't it? So when they come out of it, then the topic of resilience comes. It will be useful to come, so that because once we go through a clinical depression, people sometimes can remain fragile, and if something else happens with the same severity, there may be chances that people can go back to that state. But once they are out of depression, then they can know more about hope, about optimism, about a gratefulness, to be great with things that they do have. But that doesn't work while while somebody is going through a depression. So while somebody is going through depression, all you can do is provide support. Provide support so that they are out of depression, and hopefully with the help of medicine, with the help of right support, with the friends, family, good diet as well. When the person is out of depression, then maybe it's a very good idea to look at those components of resilience. So how can you help the person, or help yourself to make yourself stronger and build resilience, so that you can fight again if something more difficult or more challenging happens in future. I hope I have answered your question. That your question wasn't very easy.
I think it's interesting because it matches with the description of what you say about resilience: absence of depression and presence of optimism. So you just describe all the pictures. You need to be absent of depression. so that you develop the resilience, isn't it?
Depression is a state that at that time, all you can do is to help the person, to support the person to come out of that state. And that state needs, depending on the severity of the condition, it needs medicine, it needs time, it needs support, it needs, you know, a very calm and good environment, a really helpful people around, love, care, compassion. And once the person is out of that state, then you there is time to think about how to help the person to build resilience.
Interesting. That's why it's a team of positive psychology, isn't it? Because positive psychology deals with mild depression, not the clinical one. You express there's the clinical, which is severe, that you don't get out of by yourself. Is that basically the difference? What's the difference between clinical and mild?
With the clinical depression, you will have to seek some support, some professional support. While with
you don't manage this by yourself. Is that the main difference? And the other one you can manage by yourself. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. That's why you're a psychologist. I'm not mainstream psychology. I don't know the thing, so we have to ask.
Me neither.
It's mainstream here. It's a good match. Thank you. Anybody else want to do a question? Go on, Krish.
Yeah. First of all, Waheeda, it's been amazing how deep and how broad, longitudinal you explained, or probably lateral you explained about resilience and in the research that you have done. And I'm assuming that all this knowledge as well as your personal experience have probably helped you get into this much of depth, I would say. I mean, I really like every word of what you have said. I have a few questions.
Thank you so much. It means a lot. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every word meant everything, and it has every meaning to it, in the sense that has the experience and depth to it, as they say. Yeah. I have a few questions around this. One is, when you say, I mean, maybe I misunderstood in between somewhere. You said that if somebody has gone through more suffering or whatever it is, I don't know, you used some words. I mean, you have used technical words. Okay. So those people, are you saying that one has to go through those sufferings to build resilience, or can a normal person, or can a person who is not having, say for example, you have gone through a lot of sufferings, as I can see, from the war, from the loss of loved ones, and from loss of properties, and lot of things. So, and maybe some other person in a developed world, in a rich family, may not have gone through any of these things. So my question is, does a person get more resilience going through the adversity, or is it like the other person who doesn't go through this kind of adversities doesn't have that much of resilience? That's the question. I have a few questions.
Okay. So your question is, people who suffer severe adversities or challenges or difficult time, do they have more resilience compared to people who haven't been through all this, whose resilience is, who has higher resilience? Well, that's again, thanks for your question. I don't think you have to go through something difficult to have a resilience. If you have received those things that I mentioned in childhood, if you have brought up in a stable, loving, caring environment, and as that study showed, people who were brought up in a educated and family, parents were educated, they were not alcoholic, they were loving and caring, there was capacity for intimacy in that within that family. They came up to be very, grew up to be very stable, emotional. They had a very stable mental health, and they had stable lives. They had very good relationships, and they had very stable and good careers. So they didn't go through difficult times in their life, but they had all those things. People who went through difficult things in their childhood, when they grow up, they had difficulties with their mental health, with their life, with their career. But do you have to go through this to have resilience? When resilience come here, how can we get more resilience? I don't think that you have to go through this to go. If you have the tools, the strategies, the techniques, this positive thinking, hope, optimism, if you are treated well, if you were taught how to be optimistic, if your parents have taught you, not necessarily consciously, some people have this discipline in their life, that you achieve this, and after that you do this, and in life what matters, a lot of families are insisting on happiness. They make sure that their children, that there is quite balance and how much they study, how much sports they play, and how much entertainment they get. So if you have that balanced life, you will have this resilience. And when natural things happen in your life, something like losing your parents, then you will have those tools, that bank of all those strategies and tools to utilize here and deal with that difficult situation. But obviously, when you go through a lot of difficulty in your life and you exhibit higher resilience, then obviously small things wouldn't matter that much. For example, if you have lost your house, your family, and you come to this country, and one day a thief comes and robs all of your stuff from a house, there is a burglary, it wouldn't matter, because you have lost more things that were more important to you. So
that's what I was
that's what you were getting at. Yes. So if you have been through a very difficult, God forbid, experience in life, then the other things that are not that severe, you would already build that resilience to deal with that small things.
Say, for example, just an example, hypothetical example is like, somebody, they have very affluent family, affluent parents, and they have not seen anything difficult in their life, and suddenly when they are, say, 15 years old, these two parents die in an accident. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So is it something that will completely crash them, or how do they come out? So that is the difference I was talking about.
All right.
Can I say something? Oh, after you say, and then I'll say something after.
It's a very difficult question, because, as we said, resilience is a very multidimensional and multifaceted concept in psychology. And it varies from person to person, from culture to culture. And we don't, it will really depend on different aspect of that individual that are suffering that kind of, if they haven't been through anything and suddenly something really big happens, whether that person will survive or not will all depend on all those factors. Whether in my research, character strength has come, character traits has come as a theme. So if somebody has got that trait to be resilient, they might deal with the situation a little bit better. But maybe there are people that totally crash, as you said, and they might find it really difficult to deal with. And to be honest, there isn't because it's such a dynamic concept, the research has not been done on every aspect of it. But generally, you can tell from the research that, you know, it depends on many factors that that individual has gone through or have, or whether he, sometimes if you're even finance can help sometimes, whether you are financially well off, whether you are able to have support or not, whether in which country. And some countries, even religion has religion plays a part, because in religious societies, people receive more support. Even something happens, you know, in Syria, for example, in Afghanistan, people, there is only one survivor in the whole household. How that survivor live, you know, it's such a difficult situation. But because of this community support, it's much easier for, let's say, compared to person who is in this individualistic society, and those people do not receive that kind of support. So it will be different from person, as much as I know.
Yeah, thank you, Waheeda.
Can I just add a few examples of that I can contribute for people who are rich or more like that has more advantage in life, and then they become resilient? I know since my childhood, because my parents would talk about it, that we naturally need challenge. So people, for example, they're very rich and they don't have much challenge in life. They look for challenge. For example, they like climbing, for example. Something more for elite groups. They already have everything nice in their lives, and they look for more challenge in life. So that build up the resilience. And a huge example of people that someone that was build their own resilience, look for resilience, was Buddha. Buddha was in the palace, protected, and he went for, okay, I need something else. So he went out, and then he find misery, he find many challenges for himself, because he needed that challenge. And I also came to my mind this film, I don't know if you watch it, is Australia. It's a film from a long time. It's with Nicole Kidman and Hugh Jackman. Basically, she is a very rich and posh girl, Nicole Kidman, who moved to Australia, and then there's a cowboy, Aboriginal cowboy, they start having a romance there. In a situation, very bad situation happened, and Nicole Kidman has to undress her poshness of queen and become supporting the Aborigines and helping them to survive. So she used all her skills of education and knowledge and all the things that she had from the, let's say, the posh world. She used that to help the kids and the Aborigines and help for a good cause. So this would be an example of people that didn't face resilience, but when they have the opportunity to do it, they show resilience. You know, so there are from these classes, there are more advantages, and they can, once they have the opportunity, they'll challenge themselves and they develop the resilience as well. So it's possible. Yeah.
When you lost your mom, it affected you a lot.
Yeah,
but then other things.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So as much as I'm only answering the question according to what I know and what I think. Yeah. So I'm not.
I mean, I gave this example just in a general way that, you know, are there any things like types of resilience wherein you cannot show resilience in one situation, but you can show resilience in other situations, or these types of?
Yes, exactly. Yes, definitely. It's possible that people, that's where this, again, the dimension of resilience comes in. That a person, that's why psychologists argue that there isn't anything called resilient person. There is no resilient personality, because people can exhibit resilience in one situation, but they won't in another, or they won't be able to do it in another one. Another event will affect them. So, you know, at the beginning when we were talking about the definition of the resilience, that there were 3 R's, and there were recovery and resistance and
recalibration,
reconfiguration. So I think people, when it's this first one, that recovery, which is bouncing back, something happens, you deal with it, you come back and you carry on with your life. Then something else happens, you deal with it and you carry on with your life normally. Then slowly, I think people go to the second stage, which is resistance, that you are now that the root of the tree is so big that small thing doesn't affect anymore, unless there is a big storm, so that the whole tree is it can tree. So I think yes, resilience can be different. One person can exhibit resilience in one point of time, but not in every events that they can. That's what literature says as well. Anyway.
So how do you think that can be? I don't know.
Can be built. Again, it depends what kind of. That's why there are different components of different programs. In one resilient program, there are different components. Why? To address different things. Depending on what you have gone through. So if you have lost someone, then you will be working on hope. If you have lost your job, you will be working on optimism. If you have gained weight, for example, then you will work on this behavior control, which is discipline and self-regulation. If you have failed a big exam, or you failed your what is important for you, then you will be working on the theory of self-efficacy and self-worth, for example. That's why there's different components in resilience. And resilience, as you can see, how many different dimensions are there, and how many different things.
What was the one that you said for loss of loved ones?
Sorry?
What was the one you said for loss of a loved one?
Hope.
Hope
for future. Things will get better.
Anybody else want to make a question?
Sorry, I took a lot of time. Sorry, guys.
No, it's all right. You always, I love your contributions always. You're going to be selected, your questions, definitely.
Sorry, Krish, with the loss of people, I want to add this. With the loss of people, I think the only thing we can do is also to be grateful for what is remaining with us. Nothing can replace the people that we lose in our life. But it's life, it's the acceptance as well. That's where acceptance comes as well. Be grateful for what you have and accept what has happened.
Yeah.
There are things that we cannot help, and that's where that's the sad truth and better truth of life.
Yes. Thanks, Waheeda.
My pleasure.
Fanny, any question? You're just observing today?
I wanted to ask, although I think this has been touched on already, but can there be such a thing as too much resilience?
Too much resilience?
Psychopath. I'm joking, sorry.
Yeah, it's again, Effie, darling, it's again a very difficult question, but as much as I know, I don't think there is something called too much resilience. If something happens, if you can deal with it and you come out of that event or that challenge, it's good. I don't think there will be anything called too much resilience, but maybe it is related a little bit with Krish's question, that then you become something that nothing else can affect you anymore. You have suffered so much, by you, I mean generally, you have suffered so many things, then you become this cold, emotionless person, which which I don't know if that kind of I can't say anything about it because I haven't seen that kind of thing, and I haven't found anything in literature. I haven't come across anything in literature to talk about too much resilience. But what I can sense from my own experience, if a person goes through so much in life, so that at the end of it, it doesn't matter anymore. You know, whatever is happening doesn't affect that person anymore. I don't think people will reach that unless there is, you know, there are always criminals that they do horrible things without feeling anything, you know, but that will be all disorders, and that won't be normal anymore.
Can I just add one interesting thing, Waheeda, that I just been reading? There is this thing that we do in positive psychology, optimal performance, which could be related to resilience, so build up you at your best. And there's this other thing that's called ultimate performance, which I'm reading a book about here. Is it's called The Rise of Superman. So it's all these people that the daredevils. They go for sports, hardcore sports, and they don't fear death, right? So the definition actually for ultimate performance is the difference is optimal human performance. Sorry, this is not is being at your best when any mistake could kill you. So I think the too much. What you said, too much of resilience, maybe could be when you're so much resilient that you don't even dare death, you know. So maybe that could be an answer for the thing. So they are the people that innovate, actually. You know, these people that have this.
That was a very nice book, Vivian. Do you remember that it was called something that can kill you? The title of the book was Not Too Much to Kill You, or something like that.
I mean, you do that. It's very connected to spirituality, actually. I'm very interested in this book. I'm just like a few pages forwards. But it shows another universe, because we think that all this genius and these things, they are in academic world. But actually, there are a lot of people, they are sports people, and they are genius of innovation, and they do everything, even they're in death, you know.
Yeah, I remembered. Sorry, I remembered the name of the book. What can't kill you make you stronger.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's an old English saying. That's an old English saying that we have anyway. That's always gone on throughout my life. It's a saying from old England.
Yeah, yeah, maybe that's where they got this the name of the book. Yeah. What can't kill you make you stronger.
So it's not whatever doesn't kill you will make you stronger. It's what can kill you make you stronger.
Yeah, it is. At least that's the meaning of the. Yeah. So with Finny, I want to come back to Finny's question. It might be something related to that. So it might be, you know, possibility that the person has suffered so much that nothing else can affect them anymore in a good way. But there is this, you know, a problematic way as well, that if you can't feel any emotion anymore. But if you ask me, my opinion is that I don't think people can get that much resilience that if something happens, they won't feel any emotion anymore. They will feel, but a resilient person is, or resilience is something that you deal with it in a different way. Maybe before, when you first experience it, maybe you did crazy things. Maybe you didn't eat food for 3 days. Maybe you didn't get up from your bed for a week. But if it happens next time, you will get up on a second day. You won't eat lunch, but you will eat dinner, you know?
What I mean is somebody who's actually physically died and had a near-death experience.
Oh,
when they had perceived something else, which they interpret as the most loving experience that they could ever imagine. And when they've actually come back to life again, because they've actually come back to life, and not everybody's had that, but a lot of people have had that have actually died and come back. They live their lives in a different way, and they're no longer afraid of just about anything, because they're not afraid of dying anymore, because they know that they perceive it as a loving universe and a benevolence. And I think that's wonderful, but I'm not in that state myself, but I think it's amazing. And I would say that's resilience.
Well, it's Michelle, isn't it? That's very, very interesting. And I thought you were just referring to that metaphor that I died and come back, I suffered. But you were talking about actual death.
Yeah.
I actually saw a documentary that a lady said she was actually announced clinically dead. But she said, I saw this light at the end of tunnel, and it was so peaceful and all that. And then she left. But I can't remember the rest of the thing, that whether she saw the life totally different, as you said. But I think our experiences do have impact on how we see life. You know, maybe that... it's a very extraordinary experience, you know, to go to death and come back. Well, I can never ever imagine how would that feel and what kind of meaning will that give. The simple things that we are going through in life, a negative experience, I mean, not as a like, you know, losing our loved ones or losing our a property that we have grown in it, or for example, we have to flee our country, you know, this conflict of identity and all that. We do find a meaning from those experiences. How extraordinary is that? Then think about going to that, coming back, experiencing that kind of thing. Of course, it will be totally extraordinary. I believe that people will look at life totally different. I mean, when we lose, for example, one of our parents, then what choice we have? We are grateful for the other one that we still have with us, or we are grateful for things that we still have. We lose our one hand, and then we are grateful for our other hand that we still have. So those real life experience that people go through, they do find meaning in that. That experience will be totally extraordinary, and I can't comment on that, because I believe whatever those people would say, you know, if they look at life totally different, I believe it. And maybe they are not afraid of death anymore, because they look at it not something to be afraid of, but something peaceful, something more beautiful than this world is. Thank you, Krish. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your time, and thank you for listening so well, so that you can see the relation between my experience and whatever I said. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for you. Thank you, Sarita and Michelle and Nelly. Thanks for your time, guys.
No, thank you. I didn't go to my other appointment. I decided that I'd listen to you instead.
I loved it. You know, I really enjoyed that, and I want to know more about it. I probably go on.
You know what? I was planning to have food at the beginning of the conversation, and I have been sitting without eating, just listening to you.
Okay.
It was lovely. Thank you so much, Waheeda. I think everyone learned so much with you, and you explained really well, added up of your experience, as people are saying. Really appreciate it. Let's keep going with a project. I think we have lots to give.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vivian, for giving me the opportunity to come and share my experience about the topic that I am quite passionate about.